Good evening, peoples. All right, I wanted to get this out early. Let's take a look at coin. Okay, great day. BTC is breaking out. Coinbase is breaking out. The markets are running. Hopefully, everybody's making some money. Here's the bad news: coin's gonna get capped. It's gonna get capped pretty severely. I've got some alternative strategies, but the news is not necessarily good, at least for this week, and it could impact our payouts. So let's get started. All right, so what's happening? And for those of you that don't understand capping and what it means, it's simply when the underlying, in this case, coin, moves up aggressively. 5%, 8%, 10%. And the fund managers out there are writing calls, right, where they're exposed. They don't own the underlying. They write the call 5% out of the money or something. And they're hoping to collect that income so that they have a nice fat distribution for us shareholders. Well, and if they write very far when the volatility hasn't been there in coin's been down, it's been 200 to 220 for some time now, and it hasn't been having these big runs, so the implied volatility starts to shrink and the premiums on the options aren't that high, so they're conservative. So they went out here yesterday and wrote a 430 and got $2.43. Well, at the end of the day today we were trading at 225, so that's only 2% out of the money. In the aftermarket, we're already at 230 with Bitcoin breaking out, and now I'm going to show you on the chart for Coinbase, it's breaking out. If this continues tomorrow, I could see us 250 at the end of the week. That will destroy our weeklies. It'll cost us 25 million. Well, we will make all that and maybe a tiny bit more in our synthetic. But what that does when you're severely capped is you don't produce any income. You got a net break even, and one's a paper gain, the other one's a real loss when you have to buy those calls back on Friday. So if they can't write further ones out there, we'll take this big hit this week. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll give you some strategies so maybe you can make some money if I'm right. I'm not any time suggesting you sell your shares, right? This is still going to probably pay $1, but $1 doesn't cut it for you people that get more excited and want bigger money. It's a fantastic annualized return and all of that, but I know the popular opinion when I say $1 doesn't make people happy because they see $1 as the bottom and 250 as the high point. But sometimes it's reality. So if you've been wanting Coinbase to run, and the problem is the capping. So let me get into it. All right, so coin was up 8.47, closed at 225.19. However, here's your aftermarket chart, right? So the black is the day trading hours, right? And so we closed right here, right? 225. And we're already up. Now that aftermarket's closed, so then by the time at 4 in the morning East Coast, you'll have the pre-market open. But based on Bitcoin, right? Again, it doesn't always trade exactly, but it's been so hampered with the CME and with this other kind of, maybe they're going to get a big competitor, maybe they're not going to be the go-to exchange, right? Which most of it's nonsense. It's fear, right? And so look what Bitcoin's done. Bitcoin went, this is going into, yes, and remember, Bitcoin trades 24 hours, so these dotted lines, the white dotted lines represent 24-hour time periods, right? So this is, through the day, this is after, midnight, at least I assume they're 12 to 12, they could be. This is probably it is after midnight Eastern time and 9 on the West Coast US. So anyway, this is up in breakout territory. It touched 72.3 and got rejected. Remember, 73.74 is the all-time high in BTC. So if it breaks through 73, there's nothing left to really stop this from a month or two running up to 92 to 104. Those would be the targets. Well, if that happens, you'll see 350, 400 in Coinbase. Now, there's time for Coinbase and the Coin and the CONY fund managers to get it right, but it won't be this week, right? So when people buy into the fund, they get a little bit of cash. But remember, they sold some today, and it was probably trading at 220 at the time, and they wrote at 230. Well, even though it didn't even close at 230, those were a losing trade as well already. Doesn't mean they'll lose at the end of the week if we're not over 230. But let's go take a look. So let's follow out. They sold 430, $2.40. They collected 104,000, right? So altogether, that puts us up to like 7.1, right? But look, we closed at 225. In the aftermarket, we're 230. Look at where all the expiration prices are, right? So you've got at 222, if we're 8 over, right, then we're killed on this 222.50. So all of a sudden that 7 million turns into 10, 12, 15, 18. If we run up to 235 or something, it's going to cost us 20 million, right? So in cash, let's just finish up a couple of things. But this other stuff is what you really care about, right? I'll do the accounting. So 325,000 shares. CONY is a popular fund. Misty doesn't have anywhere near the shares, but guess what? Misty's not capped. They wrote an 1830 call when MSTR was 15, and now MSTR and after hours is 1760. But they didn't miss a beat in moving up, and they won't because they're not capped, right? They'd have to run to 2,000, but that's pretty significant, right? So people buying into the fund, and I understand they don't want to write a call for 30 cents, right? Because it's going to give you 10,000, 20,000. They want these, but unfortunately, when they did these, we were trading so low in order to get $3. They were stretching it by going to 222 when it was trading around 206. So it's just got to get better. Otherwise, you get run over, which is exactly what's going to happen to the fund. All right. So what did they do besides that? Here's the trades that CONY did, right? They're spending the money that came in. You see this one. The other one, they always try and match the pair. This is a synthetic, right? Buy the call, sell, short the put. And they actually made a little money because we're underneath the 220 when they put this on, right? So they bought the call for 23 and they sold the put for 25. So minor money, right? Let me go show you that. So they spent 1,006,000 and they collected 1,000,000, almost 100,000, 1,092,000. So that kicks a little money in the piggy bank, right? But when you got an $81 million loss in your synthetic, you know, 92,000 doesn't really put a dent in it. Now, this is fantastic. And let me show you what will happen so that when I say we have a loss in the weekly, yeah, we have a loss in the weekly. Potentially a big loss, potentially. But we will make it all up here, right? If this goes, we're setting at 225, right? I've already updated this guy. So we went from a $23 million loss, paper loss on our synthetic, to an $18 million gain, okay? So that's 41 million turned around. But remember, these are on paper, so they're going to have to roll into a higher one, and that'll be an option. So I'm not saying we're stuck with $1 payment. It's just they're going to have to pull some shenanigans and have to get their calls written higher and roll the strike more in order to capture some of that money to pay us two or more dollars. It's just that simple. Okay, so you really need to understand, for someone like me who's reporting, you know, the yin and the yang, what the impact on one side does to the impact on the other side. Okay. So now that we understand that, let's go take a look at holdings where we can see everything. Okay. So I updated all the cash. You guys don't care. The shares, right? 325,000 added, 1.47. We closed at 22.75. Fair value is 22.77. But we didn't, and I didn't update these. They're so simple to tell you. I'll do that when we're more stuck in a range. Right now, when we're flying. So look at this. Got an $18 million gain. That was a $23 million loss. So fantastic. But let's go out and take a look at what the payments tab is telling us. Not a lot happened, right? This shrunk by the 104,000 we gained, right? This gave us a little bit more money, 92,000 that we made in the difference of the buying the call and selling the put. But we still got $2.70 over here. Our 94 became 93 because we added a lot more shares. Okay? So you can see how we're not getting our fair share because we're capped. Now, if tomorrow nobody buys in and they don't deploy another new call that they could write even higher, and this goes to 230 to 240, our loss gets bigger. Our gain will get bigger, but it doesn't do you any good if you can't get this number bigger, right? You'd have to get, I don't see 81 million, although we could get it in the synthetic. Well, you know, if this thing flew this week, we could get close to making that 81 up, literally. But what would happen is they got to write really high calls that don't pay much premium. But that would be sweet if they did that, right? So let's see what these fund managers do, because they need to be looking at the chart. You know, they got their head down and they're going, okay, I gotta get this to pay 70 to 80%. My target on the yield is 75 to 80%. I need, you know, they break it down, I need this much yield on a weekly basis, and that means this much money. And when I take it down to the week, I need, you know, 70 cents. And they got their head buried at that, and they're not looking out saying, what if it does this, right? But again, they would argue they're an income fund focus. So I've got a strategy for you guys, especially for the more knowledgeable and the smart people. Okay, it's not a smart thing, but it's, so what can you do, right? Well, there's not, like this week, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to watch the pre-market, and very likely I either will sell a bit of my coin and buy CONL, or I'll just use other funds and I'll buy CONL. What in the heck is CONL? Well, let's take a look. Some of you guys know. I know a few people out there, right? Remember, the education level among you guys, the investors, and there's some people that are retired, they stick their money in here, they just want to make their payment, and they want to know what their payment is. They don't care about synthetics, they don't care about weeklies. And then there's people that say, well, geez, I mean, every time I'm out on a stock board or Yahoo Finance or Reddit or somewhere, somebody will say, well, oh, you're the guy who writes about that. Why would you be in that fund? You make a lot more money in Coinbase. Well, it all depends. Guess what? When we're flat to slightly down and just barely up, we make more money in CONY because we're earning income. But when coin wakes up and starts running, we're lucky to do half, a third of the movement that they do, right? And we may make lower payments than we're used to making. So it's not like the fund's going backwards right now, right? It's not, you know, it's just that you're probably not going to see the stock appreciation. So what I plan to do at times like this, now I want to verify this, right? So let me show you on my weeklies. Let me show you one other chart and I'll come back to this. So here's my CONY. On my weeklies, I put this in here. I forget all the stuff that I do. Okay, so this is why we're hurting, right? This is the bulk. We're already 1.19% behind. Well, when we get 5 or 10%, that's like 3 times the money, right? So look at on the holdings again as a reminder. So on this guy, oh, I don't have the big, sorry, I don't have the big 22,000 in here, the 6.9. Ah, I need to add that. I'm sorry with that. But you just look at a simple one. This is an older one, right? So we wrote a 215. And sorry, this one is actually a 230 today. And it's 524. Sorry, I thought I updated these, but I didn't get everything in that I wanted. Okay. But I want you to be able to see when these things go negative, right? So we collected 104,000. Sorry, it's right there in front. We collected 104,000. Do you know what it would cost us today if we had to buy it back? 304. And they put that trade on today because coin kept running, right? So that's a 230. Luckily, we're under 230. But in the after hours, we aren't. So if it opens up in the morning above 230, this is going to be $8, $9 tomorrow, right? And so all of a sudden on Friday at 230, it's 0, right? So they might win this one, but my gut says if this breakout's real and it sustains, if we're at 250, this is $20. Do you know what $20 would spell for them? It would be about 700,000. So we collected 100,000 and paid 700,000 to buy it back. Well, what about the one for 6.8 million? Triple or quadruple or 5 times that, right? So now you see why it can hurt us the same amount that the synthetic runs, right? I mean, this thing would be awesome over here if we ran to 250, right? We'll make 50 million, but guess what? We'll lose it in the weeklies. So that's all. I know I've said this 50 different ways. I just wanted you to see that, right? And then I want you to see on my charts, where did I put that? In weekly. Yeah. Here's what's happening. So we closed, I got this arrow in there, but this is, the upper line is 250, the lower line is 200. So the 225, we closed just a little bit above that, right? So we're above the line, and the line probably is 224, and then after hours we're 230. So it's a classic breakout, right? So if we have another close above it tomorrow, then that validates the breakout, right? I mean, you still have to watch it. So by having that breakout, that says that this thing will very likely form. Now, it could run up to 235 and come back and test the breakout at 225, which if that happened around Thursday or Friday would just be fabulous for this fund. It would give everybody a second chance. But if all it does is come back and test the breakout, then it's still going to be above the 215 and it's still going to be above the 222.5, right? But the idea would be that the breakout's legitimate because it's clear sailing to get up here to 350 after that. And so then you have a massive cup, right? And then you'll have a 4 or 5, 6 week consolidation, right? To have a right side handle. Won't be this kind. It'll just be this with a little bull flag, you know, little handle on the cup, and then potentially take off from there. So there's massive bullishness here, okay, based on the charts. I mean, it has to happen. So what would I do? That's when I was starting to explain to you guys. So I wanted to show you a couple of additional ways. Now the chart is, here we go. Here's the chart I wanted to show you. So what is this? This is CONL. What is CONL? CONL is an ETF. I don't think it pays anything, but they're showing 0.22. Don't count on any yield. So if you say, well, Bruce, I'll just go out and buy coin, right? You said coin's going to run. Well, you can do that, you know, but just remember, what's the price of the thing, right? It's $225, $230. So here's the $49 stock that gives you 2x the performance. So what did I say before? Oh, outside. Look, we got an ambulance coming here. Okay, it went away. Sorry about that, guys. So on CONL, let's do coin again so you can see. You can verify what I'm saying, right? So 8.47, 225.19, after market, 229.97, and I'm showing a little above 230 on there. So if it's double, it needs to be about 17%, right? Just short of 17%. $17.03. So they're using futures, they're using some options. So don't count on an income fund. And also these have decay in them if you hold them a lot. Remember, they're very volatile based on the underlying. But my point is, look at this breakout, right? You got the same line coming down. If somebody wants to be adventurous, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy CONL. And I could easily see, you can map this out. This is around, you know, if you go back to the other chart, you know, that's around 260, right? So just getting back to 250 would take this thing up to 65. So from 50 to 65 could be in a blink of an eye. It could be this week. It could be a week from now. So that's what I plan to do, because otherwise I'm sitting there in CONY. I want to get my income. I love it. But at the same time, I don't want to miss out on what happens. I mean, you could sell your coin, your CONY, and try and get back in before the dividend and all that, because clearly this week it's not going to match the performance. Now, if coin turns around and goes back down to 212, that's a win for CONY, right? They're going to keep their money, and now they're doing okay, right? Their synthetic's going to go down some, but at least they captured their weekly. But when I see a breakout like this, and I see it validated, I want to make it over there, and I want to get my income. So there's a place in your portfolio. So sorry, I didn't mean to spend so much time, but I knew if I didn't explain it to you and show you, people that might consider it would be fearful, right? No options required. I mean, you could go out and buy options on coin and all that. This is just a straightforward buy something, put a sell in at $70 or some price, you know, and forget it. And it's probably going to run there. So that's what I had for you on that. I don't think there's a whole lot left. It's too hard to actually predict. Let's get through this week, and if we take this big loss, then we're better situated for the following week, right? But remember, when we take the loss, it's going to show up here. It's going to turn this into a positive. And, you know, if we don't roll the synthetic, it's not going to show the gain here. So we could get down into that where the fund's paying us $1 even though we didn't earn it here. So I just hate to see these with what I think might happen, right? But again, it's all in my humble opinion. Okay, so I'll let you guys go. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. It's for fun and entertainment. Hope you were entertained. Okay, wish us the best here on CONY for this week. All right, have a good one. Bye.